Ain't college football so much fun? Welcome into the bunker of General Gridiron, Field Marshal of football forecasting. We're about to map out the way this college football weekend is gonna go. Will your favorite team be marching to victory, or will the enemy be taking your battle flag? Indeed, college football's opening weekend was full of excitement, with surprising losses, big-time comebacks, and a whole lot more. So folks, grab your helmet and man those battle stations. We're ready for another round of General Gridiron's football foretelling for Week 2. Arkansas at TCU. The Wounded Pigs come down from the Ozarks to tangle with the blood-shooting Lizards in Cowtown. Head hog Brett Belima will take a tip from General George Custer's South Dakota State Jackrabbits and charge directly at the young reptiles in front of a typically modest crowd of frog fanatics. The Horny Toads replace slippery amphibian Trevon Boykin with Kenny Hill under center. And while the Texas Christians were involved in a hairy hopscotch with the spring-legged high jumpers last week, the Fayetteville Porkers nearly got hickory smoked by the La Tech Bulldogs. Look for private school privilege to prevail. It's a swine and cheese party in Fort Worth, and the main course is pulled Razorback. The Generals victor, TCU. Virginia at Oregon. Old South heads west to the land of rain and iconic beards in this jaded juxtaposition of tradition and fluorescence. Mark Helfrich will be jumping out of his galoshes in excitement when the 0-1 Cavaliers trot into town with nothing but faded gentry and a porous defense. The sword-wielding gents are coming off an honor-shattering loss to the pesky Richmond Spiders, and Royce Freeman will be prepped for this overmatched duel in monsoon country. It's 10 steps, turn and fire, when the Wahoos are properly ventilated by the number 24 Quackers. The Generals victor, Oregon. SMU at Baylor. The Stangs gallop 2 hours south to Waco for a fiery Methodist Baptist showdown, the likes of which haven't been seen since last Sunday's post-sermon race to the local buffet. While the ponies still remember the death penalty, the Teflon Bears have managed to avoid the ineffectual arm of Johnny Law to this point. The oldest university in Texas looks to follow up a successful exorcism of the Northwestern State Demons, while the socialites from Dallas are looking for an encore of their trip to Denton, where they managed to trample the Mean Green back into their proper social status. The Bears still have unindicted talent on the field, though, and the Boulevardiers will hardly even notice when they're pummeled by Seth Russell and the lawless brawlers from Dr. Pepper Country. The Generals victor, Baylor. Big. Penn State at Pittsburgh. Happy Valley hasn't been smiling under James Franklin, but hope springs eternal in the land of Paterno. Inaccurate gunslinger Christian Hackenberg took his pedestrian stats and physical potential to the professional league, so the desperate Lions from Mount Nittany will be breaking in a new signal caller when PSU growls west into the Steel City. The Panthers from the city of Three Rivers won their warm-up as they easily flashed by Kent State, but the Big Ten reps from State College will pile into Pitt's rental stadium en masse. Despite the comparative claustrophobia of the Steelers' ball yard, the Central Pennsylvania colonists will create Beaver Stadium West, William Penn style. The Generals victor, Penn State, Yens. South Carolina at Mississippi State. What's the worst team in the SEC? Tune in to this showdown Saturday to find out. Bully battled a serious case of kennel cough and the Cowbells lost to South Alabama last week, while the raucous Roosters narrowly avoided being served extra crispy to the famished seafaring Commodores of landlocked Vanderbilt. Dak Prescott ain't nowhere near Starkville, and Coach Steve Spurrier abandoned Columbia midway through the 2015 season to take over cheerleader duties from Mr. Two-Bits' Gators. Both left gaping holes that opposing players will fill with touchdowns aplenty. But Dan Mullen won't come up shorts this week. The Generals victor, Hail State. Still to come on this week's college football forecast. Raider Red and his legion from Lubbock ride west for a shootout with a wild bunch of evil Arizonans. And the largest crowd ever to watch a football game will be on hand at Bristol's NASCAR track, where the Vols and Gobblers will be in the fast lane. Keep it here. General Gridiron will be right back.
Because you want more flavor, at Newk's we marinate and grill to perfection. Because you want the latest culinary tastes and trends, we never rest. At Newk's, great food drives us. So we are meticulous in our preparation, obsessed with the quality of our ingredients, and uncompromising about serving you our very best. We believe that sharing a memorable meal is one of life's ultimate pleasures. Join us at Newk's EATERY.
Howdy, soldiers. This is General Gridiron back with you. Each week, this fabulous football forecast is heard on some of the finest radio stations all over Pigskin Paradise, including AM 1370 WLOP The Buzz, Fox Sports Radio for Jessup and Wayne County, Georgia, and News Talk 1010 WMOX in Meridian, Mississippi, Lauderdale County's home for Mississippi State Bulldog sports. We appreciate all of our radio affiliates. Now, let's get back into the football fight. Texas Tech at Arizona State. Former Border Conference rivals collide in the Valley of the Sun when the Red Raiders ride, guns blazing, into Sun Devil Stadium for a Pac-12 Big 12 Donnybrook. Heisman candidate Patrick Mahomes brings his Colt 45 arm to this desert duel, and on the other sideline, Todd Graham hopes to bedevil the Tech defense with two hellhound tailbacks. Sparky narrowly fended off the axes of the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks last week, while the boys from Lubbock had no problem chopping their own Lumberjacks from Nacogdoches. Never bring a pitchfork to a guns-up fight. Texas Tech wrecks the Tempe Terrors. The Generals victor, Raider Red. North Carolina at Illinois. Last week, the Tar Heels forgot their place and stood toe-to-toe with mighty Georgia. Despite being treated for dog bites, the Rams from the Land of Flight showed well against Nick Chubb and clipped the hedges a little too close for Uga's taste. Illinois cut the brake lines of the Murray State Racers, lapping the smoking wreck to the tune of 52-3, while the Heels lost a squeaker. In this one, the Proud Warrior Tribe will be stepped on by a brigade of big old nasty feet from down Dixie Way. The Generals victor, North Carolina. Kentucky at Florida. Wildcats have the advantage on land, but Gators are tough to beat in a swamp. Week 1 was a bad week to be a Stoops, as Mark was unable to escape the family assault when the Southern Miss Golden Eagles shredded the House Cats in Lexington. But the basketball kiddies crave something to pass the time until hoop season begins, and football can move those calendar pages for the horse country has-beens. No one even knew UMass fielded a pigskin program until they parked their car in the Gators' yard last week. Since they brought some helmets, they decided to go ahead and line up. The swamp proved to be too much for the Yankees, but the cold-blooded Lizards looked sloppy and slow. Disney might have banned Gators, but they're still in Gainesville. The Generals victor, Old Florida. Wake Forest at Duke. Two borderline blasphemous barbarians butt heads in basketball country. The evil ministers head down Tobacco Road to the land of the Deep Blue Devils for a yearly ritual that typically means nothing to nobody. Recently, the Cameron Crazies have wandered outside of their dorm rooms and into the football stadium to experience a newfangled sport that's prosecuted with no nets. The Dukies' curiosity about this sport has been rewarded recently with bowl games and winning seasons. Both ACC schools won their respective slap fights last week, and this week the slaps will be slightly more passionate. Several hundred rabid fans will be sure to create a modestly annoying mumble that will trickle down from the stands and onto the field when these titans collide. The Generals victor, Duke. Virginia Tech versus Tennessee. Lane Stadium will be empty. Neyland Stadium will be empty. But Bristol will be packed to the pits with football, not NASCAR fans. Rare is the venue that dwarfs the Knoxville Volunteer Palace, but the East Tennessee Racecar Cathedral will host the highest attended football game in the history of this great nation. More than 120,000 fans are expected to fill the stands, and the glorious gridiron will be laid out in the infield, ready for the SEC and ACC to bash helmets. Justin Fuente left the capital of barbecue for the capital of Metallica entrances, and the Sandman was summoned on his first time down the tunnel against Liberty. It's not Memphis in May, it's September in Blacksburg for the former Bluff City hero. You know, they say rubbing is racing, and the castrated turkeys are ready to rub Smokey the wrong way in front of the largest crowd ever. The Generals victor, vroom, vroom, Virginia Tech. We've already looked at the weekend's biggest battles across the nation, but we're not done. We'll be back in a moment to wrap up this week's General Gridiron with our rapid-fire picks. This is General Gridiron back with you. We've already maneuvered through this weekend's frontline college football showdowns. Now it's time to fix bayonets and storm the field with our rapid-fire football forecast. Cincinnati boils Purdue. Oklahoma State lassos Central Michigan. Michigan mauls UCF. Texas tops UTEP. Alabama smacks Western Kentucky. NC State scratches East Carolina. UCLA is a winner against UNLV. Utah bayonets BYU. Oklahoma gets revenge on Louisiana Monroe. Boston College sneaks past UMass. Ole Miss waxes Wofford. Rice steams Army. Florida State escapes Charleston Southern. Likewise, LSU escapes Jacksonville State. Clemson topples Troy. Vanderbilt sinks Middle Tennessee State. USC roars back against Utah State. Notre Dame gets lucky against Nevada. Ohio State drills Tulsa. And Navy will have all hands on deck against UConn. Well, troops, you can now put your swords back in their scabbards. We're all out of picks on this Week 2 edition of General Gridiron. We'll be back again next week. Same General Gridiron time, same General Gridiron station. So don't forget to tune us in on the radio, Facebook, and YouTube TV. And don't forget to tell your friends all about the show. Just search for General Gridiron. This is John Rawl, the General of Gridiron Glory, thanking you for listening. This show was written by the great Matt Heermans. General Gridiron is a production of CRM Sports. For more, log on to crmsports.com.
That'll be all, y'all.